Hey Karl, what are you up to?
Not much. Been looking online at that Cyclops headlight.
Oh, the one I
LED.
got on my bike. Yeah.
I want to see how yours works.
Okay, well,
See what's kind of amperage
yeah,
you got. And...
yeah, you still have the standard bulb, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I think I have my old bulb kicking around.
Alright.
So why don't we pull the Cyclops out? We'll see how it is for brightness.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the old one out, and then we can sort of take a look, and then we'll test them for amperage and stuff.
Sure.
All right, let's do that today here on Dino's Tinker Shed. I think it's worth mentioning that I bought this Cyclops bulb myself. They didn't give it to me or provide it to me for a review. When I started looking for an LED option for my Dr650 in the spring of 2021, I had a lot of sort of reservations. Now, I had bought H4 LED bulbs for one of my past snowmobiles. I had a 2001 Indy 600 that I replaced the stock bulbs with LED bulbs that I bought off of Amazon for like $40 a set. Now, when I put them in, they worked okay. They were very bright, but they only lasted a ride or two, and then the vibration basically killed them. So when I started looking for the DR, a big single, I was a little bit worried about it. But as I reviewed different forums and articles on LED headlights, Cyclops kept coming up as the premier bulb of choice. Now, Cyclops is actually celebrating its 20th anniversary of providing LED options in the States for both motorcycles, power sports such as snowmobiling, and even mountain biking. So they've got a really diverse history of manufacturing LED bulbs specifically for applications like the Dr650. So even though the bulb itself was $89.99 US, by the time I got it into Canada, it was over $100. I have to say I am very pleased overall with the performance of this bulb. I'll just get it out of the way. And I know when I ride with Karl, he always comments on how much brighter and whiter the light is coming from my Cyclops. Now, I opted for the additional $10 Ultra bulb. So mine uses both the low and high beam LED diodes when it's in the high beam mode, but it reduces the wattage. So you actually get more distance and you still get some of the benefits of the low beam pattern. And what I'll show you later in the video is the pattern that comes out of this LED is really, really good. It matches the factory halogen pattern really well within the sealed beam reflector of the Dr650. So why don't we start by looking at how to actually get the headlight apart. Now again, I already have the Dr650 loaded up with the Cyclops bulb, so we'll actually pull the bulb out of the headlight housing and then we'll put the old bulb back in and we'll test it so you can see the difference in beam pattern. So it might be a little bit backwards from how to change a light bulb, but I think you'll enjoy it. All right, let's get started. Karl's going to help me out by actually taking the bulb out of this bike here. So the first step is to get the stock fairing off, which is held in place with 3 bolts. And you can see here they use a JIS screwdriver head to get them out, and they're all exactly the same. So he'll put these into a parts tray, and then basically your factory fairing just lifts off. Next, he's going to snip off all of the zip ties that I've put on. Now this little plastic pouch that surrounds your wiring harness is factory, but because I've got a little bit of extra material in here, I added some zip ties, and you can kind of see here, Karl's going to snip these off. And what that does is it releases the actual driver that's held within that package there. Now after removing this zip tie, Karl can unplug the Cyclops from the factory wiring harness. So the plug that's in his right hand is actually what normally plugs into the back of the halogen bulb directly on the headlight housing. In this case, there's a pigtail. Now Karl's going to take out the 4 mounting bolts that hold the actual headlight assembly in place. Now this is relatively easy, and once he gets these 4 bolts out, well, the headlight just lifts out quite easily. And I have a ram mount mounted to the headlight assembly. That's what that long stick is, and yes, that is actually a plastic spoon that's used as a spacer. Now Cyclops includes this pigtail with a factory harness plug, their driver that powers the unit, and then it's connected to the headlight itself through this waterproof connector here. Now the headlight sits right here outside of the headlight assembly, and it's basically twisted in. It has a keyway in there that you twist it counterclockwise and the bulb will come out. Now this is different than the factory, but it works really well, and you can see here just how well built this headlight actually is. It's all aluminum, it's got its own internal cooling fan, and it's a very durable piece. Now here's the factory bulb, and you can see those 3 locating tabs that are on the actual base of the bulb. Now I'll show you how this comes out of the factory harness. So first, if you were to take this out, you'd pull this rubber piece off. Then you would flip open this retainer spring, and then the bulb would just lift straight back. Those 3 little tabs register the bulb in place. Now Cyclops provides this adapter that fits into those 3 pins, and you basically lock that adapter in as if it was actually a headlight. Next, you put back on the rubber boot, and it actually says which side is top on here, so make sure to get it lined up right. And then basically you line the keyways up on the bulb, push it in gently and twist it, and it will lock in place for you. Now here is the low beam on the Cyclops, and you can see it's very bright. Now it's a little bit on the angle because it's mounted on the bike here, but take a look at the high beam and low beam compared to the halogen here. It's much dimmer, but the pattern's very similar. So let's have a look at the pattern. Here's the Cyclops on low beam compared to the halogen, and here it is on the high beam as well. And you'll see that the shape is very similar, but let's be honest, the Cyclops is way brighter. Now I want to compare the power consumption, or the amperage that both bulbs use, and I'll do that using this amp tester. It's an inline fuse tester made by Altel. Now I farkle this up a little bit using a fuse holder and some alligator clips, and I connect it directly to a small 12-volt battery to give me some power. But basically I want to test the high and low filaments on both of these bulbs. So first we'll test the halogen bulb. Now the halogen bulb, I'll put the yellow to the ground, and then I'll test the high beam side here. Karl will hook it up, and you'll see that the high beam comes in around 4.2 amps once it stabilizes, and then the low beam side comes in around 3.2 when it finally stabilizes. Here is the actual LED bulb now. Now look at how much brighter the low beam is, and it only uses 2.5 amps. Now interestingly, when you put the high beam on, it doesn't really look all that much brighter, and it still only uses 2.5 amps. Now this is because the bulb itself draws the same wattage of 38 watts, but it lights up the LEDs differently, so it fills the reflector in different areas. That's what gives you the longer range for the high beam, is really the placement of where the light is being generated along the stock of that LED. And that's why it can run at 2.5 amps on both high and low, which is a great option to have because it frees up power from your stator for other accessories. And anybody who's ever tried to wire in auxiliary items like these headlights here, or maybe heated grips, knows that there's only a certain amount of wattage available out of any motorcycle. The DR650 stator produces stock around 200 watts of power to run everything on the bike. Now there are aftermarket stators that go up to 250 watts, but in my opinion it's a little easier to just add an LED headlight and gain some wattage from the stator. So if we looked at the difference between a standard halogen bulb and the Cyclops bulb, well, you gain almost 20 watts of available power for you. So those LED running lights that I showed you, both of those combined only draw 1.5 amps, which converts over to about 12 watts. So you still have 8 additional watts left over for other things, and you get a brighter headlight. To me, it's really a no-brainer. An LED headlight is a great option, and if you're going to choose one, you might as well choose a quality product. And that's what this Cyclops really is. Well, that about wraps up that installation or whatever, Karl. All we have to do is put this back in the bike, and it's not that hard. I think people can figure it out. I have a couple things I want to look at, so I'm going to actually leave the headlight assembly out for now. But what are your thoughts on the bulb?
Well, I believe it's a lot brighter than the halogen bulb. Like for daytime driving, it's more visibility. Draws a lot less amperage, so you can add a few more goodies to your bike that draw a little bit, so you're not overloading the system.
Yeah.
Nighttime driving, it probably is very bright. You don't do a lot of night driving, but you never know what situation you're in. So I'd like to try it out at night. You kind of see what's going on. You're not blinding other drivers.
Well, I've ridden home from your house at night.
Yeah.
It's vastly better.
Yeah,
it really is.
You don't want to be
really
blinding people with your headlight on the highway.
That's true. Yeah.
But I think it's well made and an easy install.
Yeah. No, I would absolutely agree. So.
And the price of the bulb, the halogen bulb, was how much?
Well, if you bought a good bulb, they're about $30 Canadian for a Sylvania bulb. This one was a little over $100 because it comes from the States, and I got the Ultra package, which made it $89.99, so it's $90 US plus shipping into Canada. So it was probably about $120 all said and all in.
Yeah.
But compared to the ones I've had on my snowmobiles in the past, it seems much more robust, much more durable, and it just seems like a better quality bulb than some of the ones I've seen off of Amazon.
The fan on the back keeps it cool. So I think it's a good deal.
All right. Well, no, I think that's good.
I think I might buy one of these.
You better get on it, because spring is coming, believe it or not. Even though there's 3 feet of snow out there, it is coming. So, okay, well, thanks, Karl. I appreciate all the help today getting this out, and I appreciate everybody stopping by here and watching us babble along, and we'll see you soon, hopefully, here on Dino's Tinker Shed. All right, I'm going to bring this back out to the shed.